What is up, guys? We are back again with another video, and in one of the previous videos I went through how to set up your diet, and I was talking about how to set up your calories and how to set up your macronutrients, and then how to set up a calorie deficit, set them to calorie maintenance, or you can be in a calorie surplus. Okay, so if you haven't watched that video, do go back and watch that video. Right now, that's where a lot of people end the conversation around diet, right? And that's perfectly fine. It works for a lot of people where you just prescribe macronutrient intakes and calorie intakes, and people will go about, choosing out their diet and kind of altering their diet so that they can hit those numbers. And that's perfectly fine. That works really, really well. But there is something you can do to almost optimize your diet so that, yes, you're still hitting those calorie and macronutrient needs, but you know that you're going to be consistent in doing it and that you're going to be getting a diverse range of foods in your diet, right? And now, this is something that people do kind of forget about. They know it's something they should work on, they know it's something that they should focus on, but that's it's not for me. I'm just struggling to hit my calories and my macronutrients as it is. So let's not complicate it, right? And that's the case for the majority of people, where they know they should eat better, and even if they are hitting their calories and hitting their macronutrients, they maybe are thinking in the back of their head like, oh, I could make better food choices. I could, maybe move this around, maybe not choose that food, and basically just make better food choices, right? So there is a simple way to do this so that you can both save money and eat a more diverse diet, right? And that is to make a list, okay? So there's 4 sections to your diet. Well, there's likely 4 sections to your diet, right? You've got your protein intake, you've got your starches, which we'll call them your carbohydrates, you've got your fruit and veg, or your veg and fruit as I have it here, and then you've got your fat intake as well. Now, obviously, these are not hard and fast. Some of your starches are going to have some protein in them, some of your protein is going to have some fat in them, so it's not clearly delineated. That was just my phone falling, but anyway, it's not clearly delineated where these exactly, this is a protein source and that's all it contains. Some people do set up their diet like that, but generally we like to count all of those crossovers, the fats and protein and stuff like that. So what you should do, you set your calories, you set your macronutrients, right? Effectively, you should use this list. You should make this kind of list with these 4 different sections, and it effectively becomes a shopping list, okay? So what I generally get people to do is pick some sort of red meat source, okay? Pick some sort of white meat source. Pick some sort of organ meat that you enjoy. Now, this isn't, you don't have to do it. Not everyone has to do this, but it does definitely increase the micronutrients in your diet, minerals, everything. Also, pick some sort of fatty fish source, right? And if you're just, no, fatty fish, not for me, then you're going to have to definitely include down here in the fats some sort of omega-3s. It could be krill oil, it could be fish oil. I just have fish oil written down here, but you do need to get those omega-3s in. And yes, you can possibly get that through other sources, but this is probably the most reliable and long-term the cheapest, because although you could just say the fish oil sorts you out, there are potentially other beneficial things in fish that you may be missing out on. So I just like to get a diverse range of things in my diet, and then I call it kind of good. After that, then I have eggs included in my diet. These last 3, we'll say, the eggs, milk and whey, they're just ways that I can get more protein into my diet that I know how to fit and structure into my diet, which we'll come back to, right? So eggs, again, great source of micronutrients, great source of lots of stuff. They do contain fat. You could just switch to the egg whites, but you do lose some of the micronutrition then from that. But if you have set up your diet and you have enough fat to play with, they can be a really good source of overall nutrients, macros and micros. Milk as well. I like milk. Has lots of calcium, has lots of protein, has lots of carbs and fats. You can get different types of milk. You can get high protein milk. You can get all different types of milk, and that definitely contributes to the overall calorie, macro and micronutrition of your diet. Then simply have whey, because it's very simple to just bang in some whey and call it kind of good with your overall protein intake once you hit your numbers. So basically it's an easy way to hit your overall protein intake. Then after that, I like to choose a few different sources of carbohydrates, and for this I just have rice, potatoes, oats, pretty straightforward, but I also have beetroots in there. I just like to include a lot of things that both allow me to hit my carbohydrate need, but also that could potentially add to the overall micronutrition of my diet. Like I could include stuff in there like, maybe some butternut squash, maybe some sweet potatoes, different things that, maybe do have a good micronutrient profile. But I generally just recommend people to pick 4 or 5 things that they know they can consistently fit into their diet and make adjustments to. Now, most of these things I like to have that you're very easily able to adjust them. So rice, you can buy in like a kilo, 5 kilo bags, whatever else. And that makes it really, really straightforward to adjust your portion sizes. Like some people like to go for the microwave rice packets. This can be a little bit challenging to fit your diet as your diet progresses. Maybe you don't have enough carbs to fit in the entire packet, and you're like, well, do I just take 3/4 of the packet? You have to kind of play around with that more. Whereas if you have just plain rice, you can go, okay, I was having 100 grams, now I can go down to 80 grams. Really easy to change and chop and whatever so that you can hit the numbers that you want to hit. Same with potatoes. Again, you can just measure out the amount that you need to hit your calorie and macronutrient goals. Same with oats. Beetroot, this again has a lot of beneficial micronutrients in it, relatively high in carbohydrates. I've just included it in here because it is something that I eat pretty regularly that does contribute to my overall carbohydrate and calorie intake, especially because generally I'll eat like 400 or 500 grams of this. Like I just buy it pre-cooked, not the stuff in a jar, but you're in Aldi or something like that, they have it already pre-cooked and you just cut it up, maybe fry it up. You could eat it kind of raw as well, it's already cooked, but it tastes good. It contributes to my overall diet. Has nice little goodies in it like betaine, nitrates, the good stuff. And then for this as well, you want to have a diverse range of fruit and veg. And this is something that doing just this section, forget about the other ones, having a variety of fruit and veg that you can choose from that you like will dramatically increase the micronutrient content of your diet. Because what a lot of people do is they just go, oh, I don't like veg, and as a result they just don't eat veg, or they just end up eating the same 1 or 2 veg that they know. It's like, oh, broccoli, that's all I eat. And it's like, oh, well, like there's a huge range of fruit and veg out there that you could be enjoying. So surely you can try out a few different things, or surely you have tried out a few different things and that, okay, actually, yeah, I actually like mushrooms, or yeah, I actually like onions, or whatever it is, so just pick a few different things. Now this is a bit of a cop out, but also a little bit of a diet hack. I just use mixed frozen veg, and what I do with this is whatever shop I'm in, Aldi, Tesco, Dunnes Stores, whatever it is, I'll just pick up whatever frozen veg they have in there. Generally it's the same kind of stuff. You have your sometimes they have corn in them, sometimes they have broccoli in them, sometimes they're an Asian stir fry mix. They all have a diverse range of different veg in there. So I'm basically getting a lot of different sources, and it just contributes to the overall micronutrition or micronutrient intake of my diet really simply. I don't have to think about it too much, and I can just go, oh yeah, this day I'm having this. They all have relatively similar macronutrient profiles. Some of them you can buy, they do have like higher fat in them and stuff like that, so you do have to be a little bit aware when you're purchasing, but the majority of them have very similar macronutrient profiles, so you can pretty much interchange them. Then after this I just have onions, mushrooms, frozen berries. Again, really easy to just throw on top of like your oats and stuff like that. Same with the raisins below it. Really easy to bang in with some oats, easy to bang in with some rice as well, different rice dishes. Green apples, I like green apples. You could choose any other type of Red Lady, Granny Smith, whatever apples you like. You know, you can pop them in. Same with bananas. Just a few different fruits that you enjoy. You know, so getting at like a list of 5 to 10 different things that you're like, okay, I like them. I can fit them in my diet. I know how to set up dishes to include those, which we'll come back to in a second. And you can fit them in your diet. That's something that a lot of people just miss out on. They just forget to do or never do, and then they're left saying like, oh, I don't like veg, I don't like fruit. And it's like, yeah, you definitely do. You just have never tried to actually include it in your diet, so you just don't eat it. You know. Then fats, again, having a range of fat sources. I generally try to get people to pick some sort of like saturated fat source. It's butter. Yeah, it has a relatively high saturated fat. It does also have relatively high monounsaturated fat, but you know, not as much as say the olive oil, which is the next one, which I kind of go choose something that has a relatively high monounsaturated fat content. Olive oil tastes good, and then choose something that has a relatively high polyunsaturated fat, and fish oil is good to go with that. So that's what I recommend, picking those 4 different things. So your protein sources, what sources of protein are you eating in your diet? Pick out a handful of things you're like, yes, I know I can have that, I know I can fit that into my day, I know how to cook that. You know, pick out a few different things so that when you're in the shop, you can just whip out this list. It can be saved in your phone, doesn't have to be written down anywhere else, doesn't have to be, you know, some big extravagant list. Literally just a list in your phone and go, okay, protein, okay, yeah, we've got 7 days this week, what's my roughly my week looking like? Okay, so I'm going to need to get a few different of these sources. Generally with the fatty fish, I try to get that in at least twice per week. Organ meat, if I can, 1 to 2 times per week. Try to at least get it in once per week, like that's 1 meal per week. And then the rest of it is just like switching between different sources that you like. Like I know, like me, mince is really easy to cook. I can bang that in, 1 pan cooking, and have that all done, and it only takes 20 minutes, you know, which is great for saving time. Same with the chicken, especially if you get pre-diced chicken, you can just bang that into a pan, cook it off. Really straightforward. You know, you maybe need to add a fat source to that, like olive oil or butter or something like that, to compensate for having a lowered fat intake versus say the mince. But similar enough meals can be made from that, which brings me to the next point, which is, you know, setting up some sort of like staple meals that you know how to cook. So it's not just that you have to set up, okay, these are the foods that I like, that I enjoy. I know these are good protein sources for me. These are good, you know, starch sources for me. These are good fat sources. These are good fruit and veg sources. That's all fine and well. And that definitely helps you, you know, actually set up your diet so that you can actually eat a well-balanced diet. But you actually have to know how to put this into a meal format, because well, you see a lot of fitness professionals talking about calories and macronutrients. You know, you kind of can forget, both as a fitness professional and as an individual, that people eat food. They don't eat like numbers, you know. So speaking of food in terms of like numbers, like, oh yeah, that's 25 grams of protein, you know, that's kind of a little bit esoteric for the majority of people. You just want to know, like, okay, what does that actually look like? That's a chicken breast? Oh, okay, cool. I know how to include chicken breast in these meals. You know, I know how to make a curry from that. I know how to make a stir fry from that. You know, you have some sort of set meals that you're like, yeah, if you gave me a chicken breast, I know I could cook a few different meals, you know? And that's what you need to do as well, on top of just selecting your food sources. Start looking at that and going, how can I combine those things to make meals that I would enjoy eating, and that I'm going to enjoy eating for a long time? Because, you know, you want to choose a diet that you can sustain over a long life, hopefully, that you'll have. You know, you don't want to be like, oh yeah, like I can eat chicken breasts, broccoli and rice, and I can do that for 6 weeks, but then I actually hate myself and, you know, bring on all the chocolate, bring on all the whatever. You know, you actually have to create a diet that you as an individual are able to sustain. Yes, that doesn't mean that you have to be only limited to that. That's definitely not all that I eat. You know, I might go out once a week, you know, and I might go to a fancy restaurant. They might have, I don't know, pheasant on the menu. So I'll be like, yeah, give me that. That's something that's diverse. That's something that, you know, brings a different, you know, taste profile and micronutrient intake to my body, so that's definitely something that I also recommend doing, trying out different foods as you are going to different restaurants and stuff. Like, you're like, okay, when was the last time you had crab? When was the last time you had octopus, lobster? Like, when was the last time you had I don't know, veal? When was the last time you had, I don't know, ox? Like, there's so many different animals, so many different food sources that you can choose a huge variety of things, and that's what you should do as well when you have the opportunity. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you should have a few staple meals that you're like, yeah, I know how to cook that. It fits into my overall daily structure. It fits into my overall daily life. I don't have to spend 3 hours cooking this because I'm like, oh, that's the only way I know how to cook that meal, and that's just not sustainable if you have a job that requires you to, be there for 8-9 hours. You're like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Go home and cook for 3 hours? That could be fine, but the vast majority of people are going to be like, okay, well, that's not a great return on investment. Like, you might want to do that on a Sunday, have something special, treat yourself, whatever. But if you're like, okay, well, like, that's 3 hours out of my evening every day to cook my meals, like, that's my gym time now, that's not happening. My leisure time now, that's not happening. It's like, you actually have to plan these things out. Like, can you cook this meal in whatever 20-30 minutes? Can you cook this meal in batches? Can you make a few different batches so that you can have an easy lunch, an easy second lunch, you can have an easy dinner, whatever it is that fits your schedule. You need to know how to fit that in. You need to know how to actually make those meals fit in some sort of structure that allows you to hit your numbers. Because what a lot of people try to do, especially as they are new to counting their calories and macros, they try to wing it. If I tell someone that you just have to measure your calorie intake and then try to hit these macronutrient targets, and you'll be good to go, you'll lose weight, you'll gain muscle, whatever the goal is, people kind of go, okay, that's fantastic, so I can just eat whatever I want, and as long as I hit these numbers, then we're good to go. And that's true, but what ends up happening is people don't hit the numbers because they don't change any of their habits. They don't change their breakfast. They're like, oh yeah, I normally have oats and a banana for breakfast, so I'm just going to stick with that, bang it into my fitness pal. And I normally go out to, I don't know, the local shop and get a roll for lunch, and they bang that into my fitness pal. They're like, yeah, I still have a good few calories left. And they come to dinner time and they're like, wait a second, I have to hit 200 grams of protein? Oh man, I struggle hitting my protein. I was like, yeah, because you didn't plan out meals to include protein at your breakfast. You didn't plan out meals to include protein at your lunch. Or they're like, oh man, I'm way over on my carbs all the time. It's like, yeah, because you're not actually planning this out, in advance. You're trying to go, oh, it's 7 o'clock and I'm struggling to hit these numbers. And this goes for both people that are dieting and people that are gaining. Like, you see this all the time as well with people who are, hard gainers. You'll ask them about their dietary habits and they're like, oh yeah, I wake up late, not really hungry, might go to the gym, do whatever. And then, in the evening, I come in, I've maybe eaten like 500 calories and I just struggle to eat my food then to hit their whatever 3,000 calorie goal. And it's like, yeah, because you're trying to do that in one meal. You need to set up a structure so that you can actually hit those targets earlier in the day. You can actually hit those in some sort of structured manner, So when you're setting up a diet, you need to think beyond just calories and macronutrients. You want to first of all include a diverse range of foods, so you get a diverse range of micronutrients, but you also then want to set up some sort of structure so you know how to cook those meals and you know how to prep those meals so that you can actually stick to that diet. Again, we can all create the best diet possible that you could think of, but at the end of the day, if you're not actually going to eat that diet consistently, you're not actually going to stick to that diet, it's useless. So that's what I want you to think about now, guys. If you are setting up your diet, you want to think about, what are some different protein sources that I can enjoy? Do I know how to cook those? Do I know how to make meals out of those? Are those meals going to stay for what I want? Like, can I cook that the night before or on the weekend and have that throughout the week? Do I need to cook that every single day? How does it stay in the fridge, the freezer? You need to know how to store it as well, Then again, you're like, okay, well, carb sources or starch sources, it's like, what ones do I enjoy? Do I have a good mix here, or is it all just rice or all just potatoes? Like, am I getting different things into my diet? Same with the fruit and veg. It's like, okay, how am I getting a few different fruit and veg sources into my diet. Am I just relying on the same old 3 that I've been having since I was 3? That's, you want to try out a few different things, and yes, you can definitely rotate in a few that you're like, these are the ones that I actually really enjoy. I know how to make meals, I know how to do whatever with it, but you are trying to get a diverse selection of those. And then again, fat sources as well, putting those into your diet, as needed. Maybe it's you're cooking with them, maybe you're using it to add flavor. Maybe at the moment you're trying to reduce them because your calories aren't sufficient to have relatively high fat intakes. But that's what I want you to be thinking about, guys. Just go that one step beyond calories and macronutrients and just start thinking like, okay, well, what does that actually look like in food? What would my shopping list look like? What does my daily menu look like? And what does my overall weekly menu look like? And that should help you better sustain your diet and get a better diet overall. So I hope that helped, guys. As I always say in all the videos, podcasts, etc., if you did like the video, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. If you hated it, I don't care. Give me a thumbs down. I'd rather that and then get some feedback so we can make better videos, because ultimately, while this is my vlog, this is what I'm trying to do to show you how I'm setting things up with my diet, because that's basically what I'm eating day to day. They're the foods that I enjoy. They're the foods that help me stay on track. And I might go through some like cooking videos. I'm no chef or anything, but you can see that, okay, so he went through that. This is what it looks like in an actual meal. So this is how it goes from like the theory, you're like, here's the calories and macros, here's the foods I'm eating. This is what it looks like in the actual day-to-day life. That's what I want to try to show you with these vlogs. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, if you do have any questions, comments, just pop them down below, and we will see you in the next one.